Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 37 of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. 37. Wow, we're almost at 40, y'all. We're almost at 40. Can you believe it? Well, yes, you can because you've been with me the entire time. So, for those of you who have been with me the entire time, I thank you so much. I don't know, my glasses feel crooked. Trying to work that out. Maybe my eyebrows are. I don't know, y'all. But welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you for joining with me today. It's been a very interesting healing journey. And for those of you who are new, that is what I talk about on this channel. It's definitely something that when I started in February, I didn't really know where it was going to go and how it might expand. But I'm very grateful that God kind of gave me the prompting to go in this direction. I'm glad that God basically said to me, you know what, Stacey, I'm going to bring you on this journey. Basically, you just have to trust me. And I had no idea kind of what I would go through, the bumps in the road, all the things, y'all, all of the things. But here we are. Hey, Tiffany, good afternoon. But here we are. And, hey, Cheryl, how you doing? Um, it's an awesome journey. It's been an awesome journey. It has not been experienced without its pain. It hasn't been experienced without its sometimes stressful moments or it's disappointments, but it is 100% that I can say I'm in a space where I know God has ordained this. And even though it is not you're doing, well, I hope you're doing better. I hope that that's going to be something for you. But yeah, I didn't know that some of these things that I was going to experience were going to be on my bingo card. If you had asked me, I would have been like, nah, I'm not going to experience that. Or this is not going to be part of the journey, but it is. And this is where we are. And, the song For Every Mountain, the part says, and for this, I give you praise. That's where I'm at. It is still challenging. And that is why we're going to be talking about what we are staying warm. We are healing as well. Well, I'm glad you're healing as well. And I'm glad you're staying warm because, man, let me tell you, it's fall. It is absolutely fall. What is the temperature there? I'm curious. Just trying to organize myself, which I guess I should have done beforehand, but I didn't, y'all. It is what it is. It is what it is. Today we're going to be having the same tea, but a different honey. So the tea that I have lost my mind on, and I'm actually going to have to research, is there another peach tea that I should try? But this tea is so good. I've been recommending it to people. Again, for those of you who do not remember, it is the Revolution Adore Spanish white peach and ginger tea. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I'm on a peach tea kick. So I'm going to be 51 and cloudy. Yeah, it's about that same thing around here. So I'm going to be trying. Oh, y'all. I wish I had smell-o-vision. And remember back in the day, we really thought that was going to be a thing. The Jetsons had us, really thinking we were going to have, our cars in the sky and all that good jazz. I'm sure they're working on it. I never thought we would have, driverless cars, which I don't think I'm still getting in that. I don't know how I feel about that, y'all. I don't know how I feel about that. Even though people can be maniacs behind the wheel, I don't know. In my case, freezing for my daughter's perfect temperature. Yeah. Those are dangerous. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about those. And so many people are like, oh yeah, I prefer to get in the I think they're called Waymo. I prefer to get in, those cars. And I was like, okay, like what has the experience been like? They're like entirely fine. But y'all, I don't know. I don't know. All right. So today's honey, y'all have known I've been trying different honeys. This is the third of the trio that came in one. I think I already showed you guys, but this is the box that it came in originally. Oliveras honey. So the company is called Oliveras Honey Company. The honeys that I've tried so far were I was in love with that creamed honey. I was in love. Your girl was starstruck on the creamed honey, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm still like thinking about that, right? So that was the first one that I tried. The second one that I tried was the Montana Sweet Clover, and it was good. I mean, as honeys go, it was good. I enjoyed it. It had just enough sweetness in it too. I didn't even steep my tea. I'm so excited about trying this honey. But yeah, it had just enough in there to give me a good sweet flavor. But y'all, it wasn't the creamed honey. It wasn't the creamed honey. It was good, but it wasn't that. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just being honest. All right, because y'all know I'm trying to give you like accurate descriptions of the flavor as it comes. So the one today is against the same company, Oliveira's Honey Company, and this one is California Wildflower. Wrong way, Stacy. There it is. All right, so California Wildflower, Oliveira's Company. It is unopened, so you're getting an actual review or reaction, whatever you want to call it. All right, so first things first. Wow, so this one has a more profound smell. The last one, I could barely smell, like I could smell a little bit of sweetness. This one is like potent. I smell it. No, I mean, very little of what could be, I guess, defined as crystallization, but I see a little bit, a smidgen of it. So first things first, I'm going to try the honey without putting it in the container. Clean spoon, y'all. Clean spoon. All right. Tiffany, this is for you. This one is really good. Like when I say really good, I mean like fighting the good fight with the creamed one. Fighting that good fight. This is amen. You are too much. This is really good. Like I'm excited, like to the point I'm salivating. It's very good. Okay. All right. I'm excited. Tiffany, you know, this honey thing may take off. I'm dropping all sorts of stuff. This honey thing may take off, girl. It may be a thing. It may be a thing. All right. So yeah, that's really good. Let me put some in here now. Different spoon. The other one was on my right hand. This is clean spoon. For those of you who are like, oh well, now it's yours. Then nobody else can have it. Praise the Lord. Girl, bye. It is the color of this. Y'all see this? It's like beautifully gold. Like beautifully gold. The other one, and the reason why I'm even pointing out the color is the other one was browner. So, all right. So I put that in there. Close it up. Yeah, it's beautiful. It really it had like a beautiful coloring to it. And it's funny, I didn't even notice the coloring until I just took it out and I was like, wait a minute, this is actually like more gold than the other one. So lots of different types of honey. This may be a thing that I start to try honeys, or just maybe I'm trying teas and I'm gonna be using the honey. So in any event, I'm letting this steep get a little darker. No double dipping here. Yes, no double dipping. I'm well aware. All right, so got the tea going. Today, what are we talking about? We are talking about, am I really healing or am I surviving? So the last time I spoke about, I quit. So I was talking about, you know, my honest perspective of as you're going through this journey, and it can be extraordinarily stressful, and you don't know, you're not necessarily like seeing major changes. And so sometimes you wonder, like, what is the point of this? Why am I going to continue to do this? Because it is challenging work. It is hard work. It can be extraordinarily stressful. And so I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, am I done? Am I all set at this point? But no, I'm not. I'm 100% not. I will tell you, it has been very eye-opening, the things I've been learning about myself and about some of the things that I have been able, or not, I want to say been able like it's a positive, but some of the things that I have 100% pushed down. And I don't think that I would have, well, I know that I would not have really gone into the depths that I have without all parts of this experience. So for that, it is a grateful experience. I am grateful for the experience. That don't mean I like it all the time, y'all. That's why last week I was like, I quit, because, and I think I mentioned this, There are, and I'm going to give you an example of something that happened. I mentioned on the last episode that I appreciate you all, especially the no the fair few that have been here with me the entirety of my journey, the fair few that are constantly encouraging me, sending me like, hey Stacy, I want to let you know I saw value. You're saying it in here and you're telling me you're doing your healing as well, as you see me doing mine. And so those things are very helpful because I think it's important to encourage yourself, but it's also great to see that the work that you're doing, it makes a difference at all. So I appreciate that. So when I said, and I posted the I quit video last week, I didn't think anything of it because I typically don't. But I had 3 people reach out to me and say, hey, I watched that video. And I was like, what video are you talking about? They're like, I quit. And I just want you to know that what you're doing makes a difference. And they all said it in a variety of different ways, but that was the general context. And it just, again, it's validating that people are seeing your work and they care about what you're doing. And they were saying, it's really helping me to have conversations. Like that's for me, if you know anything about me and my playwriting, that's always been a thing for me. I want for conversation to happen based on conversation that I'm having or art that I produce or whatever it is. That's for me an important thing is evoking that conversation. So I just want to thank you all again for being here. Somebody else snuck in here. I see there's somebody else watching. So hello, whoever is watching that came in. So again, the title of today is Am I Healing or Am I Just Surviving? And that is very real. That is something that we all have to figure out on our own. Core idea of this particular conversation is going to be what surviving means versus what healing means. So I'm going to kind of say that at the beginning to level set. So as I mention those things, you have an idea of what I'm talking about as I mention them. So when I'm talking about surviving is about making it through. Like, girl, I made it through. And that's like thinking about like how we're sometimes like, I made it through the day. It means I survived. It doesn't mean the day was great. It means I made it through the sucker. Like I pushed my way through. I pressed my way through. I might have cried my way through. I might have slept my way through because sometimes that's what it is, right? But I made it through. That's surviving. Healing is really about learning to live again. Now, what I will say that was interesting about me as I was writing this down was, is it really that I'm healing or is it more so like this is the conversation that I had. So I'm inviting you all into the conversation that I had in my head. Was my healing about learning to live again or about learning to live for the first time? That was really what I was, and I still haven't really, I feel like I'm piecemealing that conversation in my head. I haven't like come to a full conclusion because there are so many parts of this journey that have told me that I have not lived in certain parts or aspects of my life because I didn't feel like I could. And I also didn't feel in many aspects of my life like I had value. Hey, Jonathan Morgan. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? I didn't see you in here. Can it be, or is it safe to do both? Is it safe to survive and to heal? I think as we're healing, we're surviving because there are going to be days that are just tough. They're tough days, and you're just grateful to have made it through the day. There may be seasons that are tough, and you're just grateful to make it through that season. I think the overall hope is that as God is working through a specific area and you continue to give that area to him, that you're in more of a healing space, right? Healing, however, as I've always stated, does not exist in a vacuum, and it does not, for me, ever end until we meet the Lord again, right? I think there are certain areas of your life that you have healed in. So there are going to be certain things that no longer remain stumbling blocks for you. But but there are going to be certain areas that you're going to, you might be exposed to. As you're healing in one area, it's going to expose a rough edge in another area. And then that means you have to kind of buckle down and do that work. I'm glad that you're well, and welcome in. Welcome in. All right. I always love to have male perspectives in here. So that's always good. Thank you for being here. So, healing is an ongoing process. I feel the same. Yes, it 100% is an ongoing process. And I wish more people understood that. And I wish more people were willing to do the healing process because it is important. So the other thing that I want to, and y'all gonna see me take my glasses off because y'all know reading with the glasses on is challenging. People are like, wait a minute, I see distance, y'all, distance. The other thing that I want to mention that I wrote down, and this is huge for me. So it may not be big for you, but it's huge for me. Survival is armor or reinforced concrete. Because your girl, I say that all the time. Reinforced concrete is a thing for me. When I'm hurt, when I have been betrayed, that's what I want. I want my heart to be like armored with reinforced concrete, with bomb sniffing dogs. And I want there to be a bomb shelter, and I want there to be a chain link fence with razor wire on the top of that thing with lasers attached to it. Right? That's really what I want when I'm going through and my heart feels exposed and my heart feels not cared for, or it doesn't feel safe. That's because that's survival mode for me, right? Healing is being able to take off that armor safely. So let me ask you all, how many of you feel like you're in a survival mode, or how many of you are feeling more in a healing space? And again, it may be both. It may be both. And as you're doing that, I'm going to sip my tea because it got dark. I look down and I'm like, whoa, this tea is dark. So this is the tea with, as I said, the new honey that I just tried, which is California wildflower. And it is amazing. Amazing. 50-50. It depends on the day. Oh my goodness, it's so good. It's so good, y'all. That is some good tea. That is good tea. Sorry, I'm not sharing it though. My bad. My bad. Y'all get you some though. Get you some both. Okay. And I think that that's fair. I think that, again, to the point that I raised that Jonathan, asked me to expound on, I think that it is a process where you're going to have some people or some space that you're going to be surviving in. There may be one area of your life that is really a rough edge right now, and you're just trying to push through. Like, Stacy, this is all I got. I don't have the ability to do anything else. There's no fancy like address right now. I'm in a space and I'm trying to do what I can do, but what I can do sometimes is not that easy. And that's just the honest truth, right? And that's okay. No, ma'am, I'm not a peach person. Okay, well, I'm just saying the whole thing works for me. But if you're not a peach person, get you some, tea that you love. I'm talking about the combination of my peach tea and the and I love peach and ginger. I love ginger too, so it is not just straight peach, though the peach is really prominent. All right. So surviving, like I said, is armor. Reinforced concrete. Healing is taking the armor off safely. And I need to say that because it's safely. So why do I say it like that? Because you can take your armor off and not be wise about doing it, right? You could do it prematurely. Maybe you meet somebody, they make you feel good, they give you the, the warm and fuzzies or the butterflies or whatever other foolishness, right? And that automatically makes you like just lay all your thoughts down about that person, and makes you kind of think that I can fully trust and give to this person without you having a season of getting to know that person, of seeing how they react to things, of seeing how they show up, of watching their consistency be a real thing that you're looking at, right? Because again, if you're in a season season of survival in love, and then love seemingly gets presented to you, people want to cling to that. People want to reach out to that. And that's not a bad thing unto itself, but it can be something that sometimes it clouds our decision making. So we have to be intentional, and we have to really use wisdom. And y'all, discernment is a thing. Get you some. If you don't have any discernment, how do you get it? You tap into your relationship with God and make that a primary focus. You make that something that you recognize the value and the power in having discernment, and you lean into God so that you can get as much as you can humanly hold. Okay. So there's a difference in energy if you are surviving versus whether you're healing. So when you're surviving, as I mentioned before, it's the energy is I just need to get through the day. Whatever I need to do to just make it through the end of the day, that's what I'm going to do. When you're healing, however, it's I want to understand why today feels heavy, and I want to make peace with it. So when you're healing, and which is why let me just tell you, this is why a lot of people don't want to do healing. because I have to go to work, and then you want me to do another thing? You want me to do another job? You want me to take on another assignment? I'm not that interested in that, Stacy. Like, no thanks, I'll pass. And I get it because I tell people healing is work. It is work, and I can't make it any different than that because it is what it is. Like, that's what it is. And again, some of the days will feel heavy. Some of the days will maybe even feel exhausting. And the thing that's going to be a challenge for you, the thing that's going to continue to push you to keep moving forward or to keep going, is going to be, can I make peace with what's going on in my life as I manage, my emotions, as I regulate my emotions, because that's also an important thing. And many of us don't do that, right? We either suppress our emotions so we don't deal with them at all, we pretend they don't exist, or we crash out. Right? There's sometimes two ends of that scenario, and then every once in a while we're able to manage enough to have good conversations that may be challenging, but we're able to regulate our emotions. Unfortunately, that's not a skill that's often taught to kids. Kids are taught to, like, stop crying, stop all that crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry for, right? So it's not something where kids are taught to work through their emotions and work through what they're feeling in that moment. It's like, stop crying because you other people have it worse off than you. Right? That's kind of the sentiment that many kids were raised with. The thing that this brings up is a level of emotional awareness. That's why I'm kind of talking about regulating and having awareness of your emotions and how they show up or how you suppress them. And in your healing journey, I can't tell you how much you're going to be feeling all the feelings. So if you're the person that's like, Stacey, I'm not trying to do all that, welcome. You're going to be. You're 100% going to be feeling the feelings. So emotional awareness. So when you're surviving, your body, your actual nervous system. So this is like, you're going through things, you're trying to manage, you have a lot of things going on. Your actual physical nervous system in your body is on high alert. It's on high alert. So this is like the times where, for example, somebody ticked you off, somebody's acting a fool, this person at work, the person cut you off on the way to work or whatever, right? So all these things are happening. And then somebody that may be wanting to have a relationship with you, whether it's a friend or like a romantic relationship, that person unfortunately gets the brunt of all the things that you went through that day. Right? They have no idea. They were like, hey, let me hang out with this person and let's go out for coffee or for tea or whatever, right? And everything they say, you're like, you're on high alert, so you're like suspicious of everything they say. They're like, so how's your day? Why you want to know how my day was? Like, I'm making conversation. Right? So again, because you're in survival mode, you don't trust the things that are happening around you. Everything around you, you feel could be something that is going to cause danger or cause harm. And so because of that, that's how you move. That's important to be able to think about. So when I think about Stacy as a kid, I reflect back on, like, what was the thing that maybe made me feel like that, right? That I was always on high alert. Now there were things 100% that made me on high alert and made me kind of look over my shoulder, that type of a thing, right? What I will also say is, the environment that you grew up in does cause you to lean to one or the other. There's some people that that I've spoken to that have never felt that same thing, that survival need, right? Because, and I'm not gonna, hey, it's what the life that they lived. They never had to, like, really struggle with anything in any area that they knew about. They're very sheltered from that, so they never were exposed to for example, like bills being needed to be paid, or they never they went to like private schools growing up, like, so they never saw, and sometimes they're in boarding school, so they literally never saw the family dynamic. That wasn't kind of the thing that structured how they became. And I'm not, that it is what it is. I know people that have had their kids and do have their kids in private schools or in boarding schools, and it is, a choice, a family choice, but it does impact how that child grows up because they're not able to have the daily living and leaning into how you are and who you are. So it does, how they figure that out is a lot different. So again, emotional awareness, when you're surviving, your central nervous system is on fire. It's firing, right? When you're healing, your body starts believing that you're safe again. So I want you to think about that. And I do not necessarily want you to write this in the chat because some of the things I'm talking about are personal in that, you're thinking about, moments in your life where you didn't, your body, I'm not talking about your mind, but your actual body may have not felt physically safe, right? And that's challenging because, I go back in my childhood and I think about those things. Like, well, there are times in my childhood, as young Stacy, that I didn't feel safe, physically safe in my body. And, there were times, and it wasn't, something that I really even thought about as much, growing up. But the reality of it is those times existed. And because those times existed, it shapes how I move forward. Because I wasn't thinking about it and because I just kind of tucked it away, it doesn't make it disappear, y'all. It just means it lingers underneath that surface. And for me, as I have told you, I don't want to go throughout the world, bruising people because I'm not doing my work to heal. So it's important for me as an adult to say, okay, yes, these things, these situations I experienced, these things may have happened in my life, and they shaped how I have seen the world. They kind of are the lens or the filter of my perspective, 100%. But I can also change my filter. And y'all, if you've ever seen me on Snapchat, your girl loves a good filter. But today, this is filter free. This is your girl. This is your girl in sunlight. That's it. That's all that's going on here. But if they had a filter on YouTube, I probably would use it. I'm not gonna lie. All right. So that's the two things about emotional awareness that I want you to hold on to. The next thing I want to talk about is behavioral signs of, am I surviving or am I really doing work to heal? So when you're in survival mode, your body, your behavioral signs, the way that you show up in conversation, oftentimes, or in conversation that you feel is a debate, is you go into numbness, right? Why? Because you want to avoid this. You already got enough going on. I can't. I can't take on something else. So I'm just like literally go ahead, talk your head off, right? Argue if you want, argue against the wall. I'm not doing it. I'm avoiding this. So that's behavioral signs. And that's gonna tell you, am I differentiating or am I separating healing from what's going on? Or am I not healing? Am I avoiding? If I'm avoiding, that means I'm just surviving. What does that mean? Maybe it means I'm not ready to go into all that. This is the thing also, as you're doing this healing journey and you're having this conversation with yourself, am I healing or am I surviving? Give yourself grace during this conversation. Because guess what? Maybe you're not healing right now. Maybe you took a break, right? Maybe you're not ready to heal in that area, because to be ready to be healed in a specific area means you have to be willing to expose what you've felt, what you've endured, and not necessarily to a crowd, but to yourself. It's okay to ask yourself those questions. You should 100% ask yourself those questions because you want to check in with yourself. This whole process is individual. It affects other people, right? It impacts other people, but it is individual. So you need to ask yourself those questions like, hey, Stacy, like literally, how are you today? I know for some people like that sounds crazy. I'm going to ask myself how. Yes, ask yourself that. Because you might say, girl, I'm making it. And saying I'm making it means you're surviving, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're not healing in an area. It just means that day, that moment when you're asking yourself that, then you just are tired. You may be tired emotionally, physically, spiritually, all the tireds, right? Please ask yourself that question, right? How are you? And it was funny. I was on TikTok, and I don't remember when this was. It might have been a couple of weeks ago at this point now. And somebody told me to tell myself I love me. Like, Stacy, say I love you, Stacy. And I was like, what? I'm not saying that. Hold on, I'm getting some more tea, y'all. Excuse me. I was like, I'm not saying that. And they were like, what? And it was like making me so uncomfortable. You should be able to say, Stacy, I love you, girl. Right? But what I will say is, you see how I just did that and became a character? Right? I wasn't just like looking at myself and saying, Stacy, I love you, which still makes me laugh. I'm not gonna lie, it makes me laugh. But the reality is you have to be able to say that. Do you want other people to love you or like you, and you still can't even say that to yourself? And I know that it's uncomfortable. It's not just me that feels uncomfortable doing that. I'm pretty sure y'all like, ugh, don't ask me to do that. I don't want to do that. Or I haven't done that in a long time. Or you know what? I love myself, but I don't know if I like myself. Or I like myself, but I don't know if I love myself. All those questions are valid and all those responses are valid, but it does tell you about where you're at right now. That's something to take away from that. It does tell you where you're at right now. Shara, I love you, girl. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. As you should. All right. So, what are some of the signs, the behavioral signs of being in a healing space or being on that healing journey, knowing that you're healing? When you're in that, the signs are curiosity, self-compassion, and gentle accountability. I don't say it enough. Most people don't say it enough. Most people don't say that enough. I don't think until that person even brought it up that I even thought about it. Right? At all. Like we can say it to a ton of other people. That people say it to their kids, they say it to their grandmama, their granddad, they say it to friends, they say it to sometimes to strangers, right? They say it to their spouses or their girlfriends or boyfriends. People say it to all sorts of people, but to themselves, like to myself. You want me to say I love me to me? For what? For what exactly? What am I gaining out of that? Right? So that's the mentality. Unfortunately, I will tell you, if you don't love you, it is so challenging to have somebody else love you because they're trying to love you past what you don't love. Right? It's almost like they're willing you to love yourself so that they can love you fully and freely. But because you may be skeptical of love or you may be skeptical of their motivations or their intentions, it can make it really uncomfortable. Right? It can make the whole process of being in love or I don't like choosing love. It can make that whole process more challenging because you're like, who sent you? Who sent you for real? Why are you here? Right? And they're like, because I'm interested in you. Why? Why are you interested? Because I'm hard, I got a lot going on. And then like, well, maybe I'm not interested. Maybe I'm not interested anymore. Matter of fact, let me step away while you work with whatever's going on in your brain. Let me give you a moment to work on that. I've said that before. And that's a defense mechanism. Why? Because let me push you away from me. Why don't I help you to exit stage left before you exit by yourself? Right? I want to be able to control when you leave and when you stay. I want to be able to control that, right? But y'all, the thing is about that, and I've been there. I've been there and I have 100% done that. The thing about that is challenging is you have to recognize that as you're doing that, you've literally said to God, God, I want this thing. I want this person. I want this relationship. I want this, whatever it is, whatever you've asked God for, right? And then he gave you the thing. And because you have not done your work, right? He feels like, and this is the thing, you've done some measure of work, but you haven't really unearthed some of these things that are trauma points or trigger points or pain points, whatever you want, whatever the points are, right? Whatever you want to call them. You haven't like really dug those things out. So now you get this thing that you done laid out on the floor and ugly cried and boo-hooed and wet up your pillow, sleeping at night, crying into your pillow, all the things, right? You've done all that. He gives it to you and then you fumble it because you're not prepared to love what God gave you. And for many people, that is a very, very, very real thing. I know because I have been there. That's why for me, it's important now to do this work because the older I get, I'm like, okay, Lord. The older I get, I will say for me, this is Stacy talking. This is not scientific fact. For me, it becomes more challenging to date the older that I get because the older that I get, my expectations and standards are getting more and more solidified. When you're in your 20s, you're willing to deal with a whole bunch of foolishness. My foolishness meter, the cup has run out. And I'm not refilling it. That is not the cup I'm looking to refill. We just talked about that on my live. Did you? That's funny. That is funny. But yeah, I'm not willing. That's not a cup I want to fill. Foolishness cup? No. Nope. You can keep that, sir. Be blessed with that. You can have 2 cups, but don't leave one here because I'm not interested. I'll ship it back to you. And I think that's the place that we just have to recognize that. And the other thing that I liked about the behavioral sign for healing is the gentle accountability. We have to be aware of where we were the problem. Cardi B says, "Am I the drama?" That was the name of her album. "Am I the drama?" We have to realize or ask ourselves, in what areas were we the problem, right? Because again, in any relationship, there's two people. Hopefully, unless y'all are doing some stuff that, no, no, ma'ams, no sirs, right? So I'm talking about dating relationships or marriages right now, right? So there's two people in that situation, and in that situation, let's say you get into a relationship with someone and then you break up, and then you get into the next relationship and then you break up. Well, guess what's the common part of that equation? It is you, right? So you have to do the work, be willing to look at and uncover why it is that you're in a space where you're dating the same type of person over and over again, or dating people that are not healthy, dating people that are broken. Maybe you like to be the fixer. It's a teacup size. Yeah, and see, this is a mug, so I don't want it to be this big. It'd have to be like one of those, the little kids ones. Maybe I could tolerate that size. But I think that it's important to recognize, areas where we are a problem, areas where we have fallen short, or where we've disappointed ourselves. I remember asking somebody recently, I said, because I think about my growth over my lifetime and the changes in my life and how I saw the world and how I saw myself over those years. And so Stacy as a kid, not as a kid, but Stacy like as a teenager, how did Stacy like see herself? Did Stacy love herself in those years? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I was going so hard to prove myself to everyone, right? To myself, to my family, to specifically my parents, to people that knew me, people that knew my family. So in every environment that I was in, it didn't matter if I was in church, on track field, on the musical stage. It didn't matter where I was in the classroom. I wanted to make sure that people saw my value. And for me, that meant working to earn their like vote, right? Their vote of, yes, Stacy is worth it. Stacy has value. But at no point was I looking at, Stacy, do you like you? Stacy, do you see what your value is? Never, 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 never did I do that work. So now I'm at my big age now and I have to unpack so much stuff that I never did or never invested in myself knowing who I am. Because I can tell you, many people, when I ask them, can say things they don't like, but they can't really tell me things that they do like. Like, what is your favorite da da da? If I ask you your favorite ice cream, you might be able to tell me, right? But if I was to ask you, what is something that truly makes you feel happy? What do you think the next thing you need to do to make yourself feel whole is? People are like, can I get back to you? But if I say, what is something you don't like? They can give me a list. I'm like, okay, dial back. I don't need everything you don't like, but they can run it down. So it's more important for us when we're asking ourselves, are we healing? Are we not? It's important for us to really ask ourselves what it is that we want to heal. Because a healing journey is not just something you do because. It's something like you have to really think about it. Don't do it because it's the popular thing to do. And as an adult, I guess I should be on this healing journey. Everybody's doing it, so let me join in, right? Back away if that's the case, because it's not for the faint of heart. Really be invested in what I want to change. What do I want to improve? That's really what you need to be doing as you're walking into your potential healing journey. And then I want you to be thinking about what parts of your life are you still surviving in? And what parts of your life do you see yourself as healing in? Again, you do not have to answer this, but this is kind of a homework assignment for you to be thinking about. All right. Yes, I said homework. Sure did. All right. So you want to have a checkpoint on your healing journey. It is very important because it is a journey, which means you're going to have peaks and valleys. You're going to have, and y'all, the valleys sometimes, woo, those valleys. Right? So you're going to have peaks and valleys. You're going to have times where you're, in the forest, on the desert, times where you have to stand still, sometimes where you have to sit down and wait, sometimes where you have to run faster, sometimes where it seems like you have to back up a couple of steps, right? Either way, there's movement happening. Even in stillness, there's movement, right? Your heart is still beating. You're still hearing from God. There's still movement. The problem is a lot of times for people, meaning Stacy, A lot of times there's this desire for there to be a more visible sign that you are healing. So yes, I get it that you'd want God to come down and be like, Stacy, good, you're going in the right direction. So far you have a B plus, right? You're like, okay, God, like I can take a B from you. I really want an A, but I'll take a B plus. So sometimes that's the case, right? Sometimes that's where we're at. What I want us to do is think about how we can put in some checkpoints along the way. How do we think about how we're healing? How do we think about the work that we're doing, the commitment we've made? Because it's truly a commitment to yourself. This to me, when people say, what self-help work are you doing, or what self-care work are you doing? This is self-care, like at 1,000. It's self-care at 1,000, y'all, because it's a commitment to being the best version of ourselves. I love your God, audible. I love my God too. All right, so journaling has to be one of the things that I always suggest people do. Why? Multiple reasons. I don't know if you've ever found, and I've mentioned this before, if you've ever written in a diary or a journal, and then you yourself, hopefully nobody else discovered it, because that's kind of, it gets a little sticky, right? But if you have found an old journal or an old diary you've written in and you reread it, let me tell you, I was like, good Lord, what was I going through? Because everything was like, I walk alone, I walk alone. Like every part, and y'all remember that from the Cosby Show. But like every single thing, there was like random days where I was like, I just can't do it today. That's all. Like that was my whole diary entry. Like what in the world, girl? And I don't minimize the angst that I had when I wrote it, because obviously I was going through something, and there were times that I could visibly see, based on reading it, what I was going through, what I was managing for myself and my relationships with other people, because those show up as well. But it was very important. Now, moving forward, on this healing journey, why is it important for me to write down things? Because there are different lessons that I'm having to revisit. There are certain stories that I need to make sure that I'm able to then go back to when I'm further along in this part of the healing journey, right? So there's a lot to that. And I also feel like people underestimate how much God can speak to you during this period, because you're really like in his face, right? Because again, if you're trying to do it on your own, I would say, abort mission. Like really, because it's I can't imagine it. For me, it's impossible to even wrap my head around the fact that you get to see how far you've come. Yes, exactly. It is a definitely a checkpoint, right? But I will tell you, there are going to be times when you write in your journal and then you look back on it, you're going to one, see how far you've come, but there's going to be a moment where you see you and what you were going through differently than as you were experiencing it. And that is so, so important. But God can give you dreams and visions and all the things because you're in his face. So that is something to make sure that you don't miss out on. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll have really vivid dreams and then I get up and I'm like, what happened in that? Or you remember pieces and parts. So having a journal is helpful. Setting boundaries. That's another thing that it does. It helps you're having or measuring a checkpoint, seeing how you've been doing in your healing. Why do you want to do this, or how can you be doing this? By setting boundaries. Y'all set the boundaries and keep them. Not set the boundaries because I'm telling you, right? Or not set the boundaries because you feel that's a cute thing to do. Set boundaries and actually stand by them. It is so important for you to do that, because we need to be able to recognize some of our rough edges. And sometimes our rough edges are people, right? They're people at work, people in the family, people that we're in relationship with, whether it's friends or romantic relationships. Sometimes the people that we've allowed to be in our circle, or the people that we've invited to get to know us better, are exposing rough edges for us. And sometimes they're exposing that they need to go. That's also a thing. So again, writing these things down, setting these boundaries, being very clear with them. is very, very helpful, extraordinarily helpful. The next thing is, you know, as you're on your journey, and I've said this to you before, one of the things for me is for one of the things I am working toward is emotional regulation. It's probably one of the more challenging things for me. It may not be a thing for you. Maybe you're already very clear in your emotional control of yourself and all of that. Me, not so much. Me, not so much. So it is something that I know is it is I don't want to say a struggle, but it is a pain point for me. It is something that I know that I have to continue to work towards. And again, I feel like, there have been points where I've been very proud of, some of the change that I've made and some of the awareness that I've learned and gained. However, there are going to be people, things, situations that come to me to test my resiliency in that area. And y'all, your girl has some work to still do. Has some work to still do. Because there are certain things that I've already seen will trigger a response from me. I even had one yesterday, right? So, again, there are some things that you're going to, and I will tell you a pain point for me. There's some things that I don't mind, right? So if somebody comes to me and they say, "Stacy, you're too black," right? Or you're a big girl. I'm like, "Well, I can see what I look like. Yes, I know I'm plus size. This is not news, right?" So those things don't phase me. When, however, you do what I feel as attack my integrity, that bothers me because I work really hard to have character, right? I work hard at that because in some areas of my life it was not easy or is not easy because again, your girl sometimes can have an attitude problem, right? So I work really hard at that. So when I feel like people try to minimize who I am and what God has given me to show up, how He has allowed for me to show up, that bothers me more so than like an insult about my size or my blackness. Because yes, I'm black, right? So, yeah. So in those situations, I noticed that I still need to work on emotional regulation because I can literally feel in my body. So I don't know about y'all, but when I'm aggravated or when I'm mad, well, two things often happen. I cry, which if you see the one tear roll down, just walk away quietly, just turn and walk another direction, right? So that's one thing that happens. But the other thing that happens is I can feel in my body getting hot. Like I can literally feel it, which probably means blood pressure, right? But I can feel that, right? And if I'm really angry, sometimes I'll get a headache. So the reality is I'm aware that I need to work on regulating my emotion. And oftentimes, what I've thought was regulating my emotion was not saying anything when somebody ticked me off, right? Walk away quietly. Exactly. Walk away quietly. But what I thought was regulating, I really thought that I was doing this great regulation work. Stacy, look at you, girl. You're doing your thing, girl. You're regulating. You didn't say anything when that person talked a whole mess about you and they were a full fool and they disrespected you and thought that they could because of whatever reasoning, right? And you didn't say nothing. Good for you, girl. But that wasn't me regulating me. That was me compartmentalizing. Because regulating means I allow myself to feel what I'm feeling in the time and I'm still able to control my emotion. Me, I was like, let me tuck this away because if I don't, Hulk Stacy is going to come out and smash. So that's what I thought was what I was doing, but that's not actually regulation. You do the same. You do the same thing. And then I get mad, y'all. I'm going to tell you right now. I get mad that I cry because then people are like, oh my gosh, I made her so upset. And I'm like, no, boo boo, you didn't make me up. You didn't make me. Oh my gosh, she's crying. She's so sad. No, I really don't want to hurt you. I don't want to go and I don't want to wear orange for the rest of my life. So I'm trying to go in the corner and let me rock myself and calm my nerves because if not, you know. So that's that's what I'm telling y'all. That's something that I still have to surrender to the Lord and have Him continue to work with me in that area because I have to remember It doesn't matter, even though I'm on that space. And I will tell you, this is something that I have seen throughout the entirety of my life, is me trying to manage my emotions has been a thing. But the way that I did it was I just put it away, because I felt like people were always telling me how I showed up emotionally was not okay. So I didn't figure out how to do it in a way that was healthy. I just was like, okay, people say it's bad, so I'm gonna just tuck it away. But there's only so much tucking you can do, right? There's only so much that you can do. So I've done that behavior, or some version of that behavior, probably the vast majority of my life. And so now I have decades into a behavior that is not healthy, and so I have to now do the work to show up differently. So that is something, that is a note that I have been working on. So yeah, stay calm and carry on. Y'all know those stickers and whatnot, those shirts. Keep calm and carry on. All right. The other thing, and this is a note for all of us that are on some version of our healing journey or will be starting it, healing does not always look like progress. And I say that because sometimes we feel like we're sitting still again, right? And I told y'all I started my journey. Well, I thought I started my journey because, I felt stuck. God had other things that he wanted me to uncover. And he also knew that I was going to go through betrayal. And I feel that he wanted me to be built up more so that I would be able to handle it. Because honestly, to have gone through this recently, I have to say, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. Like, I feel like overall, there are definitely still days that it's very difficult. But I would say overall, I'm actually very proud of how I've been showing up for myself. And I haven't been just tucking it away and not feeling things. But I'm also not crashing out, y'all. And that to me is a win. I'm going to take the win. I'm going to take that W. All right, so healing doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it's peace that feels boring to others. Boring after chaos. I'm sorry. If you've always grown up in a chaotic situation, peace feels actually scary to you, because your normal is chaos, right? That's your norm. That's what you know as your baseline. I'm used to craziness. We have I have a big family. I don't have a big family, but I'm just using this as an example. I have a big family, and we're always loud and in each other's business and know everything and all the things that are going on. And that was the litmus test about how I started my life, right? So now everything is measured against that test. That is your norm. So when you go into, it's just like when people move from the city into the burbs, and they're all those sounds are like, what? They hear ooh, 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 and they're like, what was that? Right? They're freaking out. But if they hear helicopters and ambulances like crazy, it doesn't faze them at all. But the sound of a cricket or a frog, they're like, about to uh, about to like, run out of their house screaming. So that's a very, very real thing. The other thing that I will say is, when anything has, when anything has been stormy or chaotic or stressful, peace can calm that. But the peace has to come from God, y'all. It's not something that you can manufacture. It's not something you can buy. It is not even something you can literally work towards. It's literally something you having to say, God, I surrender. Give me your peace. It's something he gives you, because his peace doesn't make sense. And that's the type we need. That is the type that we need. We need that peace that surpasses all understanding. The hard thing, the challenge is, how do we get that? We have to trust him. And I mean, trust him fully. Many of us don't do that. Many of us are not in that stage of our journey, right? Because trusting him means to give things over. I've told y'all the song I Surrender All, I used to never sing that song, because I didn't surrender all. I surrendered some. So I was like, in my head, I surrender some. I don't think that's what he wanted me to sing, right? But that was the truth of it, because there were some things that I liked. There were some things that I didn't want to give up. I wasn't doing it. I'm like, you can have this piece, Lord. You can have this piece, this piece. I'm going to give you all these pieces, all of them. Look at that. I lined them up for you and everything. I even wrapped them. But this piece over here, I'm going to keep this for me. And he's like, I don't even care about all this stuff. I want that little piece that you want to keep for you. A new song in the making. But that may be a song that I actually do write for the play that I'm writing, which I'll tell you guys at the end. But yeah, I surrender some. That was literally how I felt. I'm like, I'm not doing that, because I don't play with him either, right? So I'm like, not doing that, not writing, not singing that, because I'm still holding on to stuff that hurts me, but I feel like I can't give you. I need to keep this, God. And he's like, I want that. That thing that you want to keep away from me, that's what I want. So it is it's important that we really think about that. What is it that those scars, those pains that we have from a kid all the way to current day, because y'all know that's part of my healing journey, looking at Stacy as a kid, adolescent, young adult, and then the age I am now, which y'all, I ain't telling y'all that, but you basically already know. All right, so the thing I want you to also recognize is you have to identify the difference between numbing and healing. Numbing and healing. All right. So numbing is a protective measure. So that goes back to that feeling of survival that we talked about before, right? In order to heal, we can't compartmentalize anymore. We can't numb things anymore. We have to say, God, this is an area that scares me. This is an area where I don't want to do the work. This is an area where I don't think I can change. This is an area where I like what it is. If I'm going to be honest, God, I like this thing. I know it's not right. I know I'm being disobedient, but I like it and I don't want to give it to you. Like, tell him that too, because he can work with the honesty of it, right? 21. Yeah, he can work with the honesty of it as well. All right. And then when you start reacting differently, that's healing in disguise. Y'all, when you start reacting differently, when things that used to tick you off or send you over the edge happen and you don't respond in the same way that you used to, you're healing. You're healing, sirs and ma'ams. That's an awesome thing. It's a key indicator. And remember, we're talking about checkpoints. How do I know? Am I surviving? Am I healing? When you have those moments where you normally would have crashed out or you would have lost your temper, you would have heard yourself go from 0 to 1,000, because y'all, there's not really any numbers in between, right? So that's awesome. The things that trigger you either have lessened in that time, which means you've been dealing with them, so they don't trigger you as much because they don't have as power. Triggers often are so powerful because they still have, they're cloaked in protection because we don't want to deal with them. But when you take away some of that power, let me tell you, it's an amazing thing. The triggers won't, they'll still exist, but they won't impact you. It's like when they say the weapons will be formed, but they won't prosper, right? That's the same idea. Same idea. So you've lessened your fear, they've lessened their grip on you, which is awesome. Will you still be faced with it while you're healing, or even after you've healed from it? Will you be faced with what? The trigger, if that's what you're talking about. I think you'll have understanding of something. I don't think you'll be, okay, so when you're saying faced with it, will you still be aware of your trigger? Yes, because God wants to, when you're healed from something, okay, yes, you'll still be aware that it was something that caused you pain, but it's not going to cause you the same pain anymore, because God has healed he has taken away the power of it. The power of the trigger, the power of the trauma is what we're trying to alleviate. That's what we're trying to minimize, because you are powerful, because God made you powerful. That thing that happened to you, those people that were nasty to you, they do not have power over you. God, you give God that, right? So it's not that you're not going to remember them. He's not going to wipe your memory, right? This is not the Men in Black. There's no, so there's not that. You're still going to remember those things, but they're not going to torture you anymore. They're not going to torment you anymore, because the power from them has been alleviated. The other thing that I want to say is, how do you measure healing without judgment is important, because we judge ourselves all the time and other people judge us all the time. So stop judging. Now, I'm not saying you can entirely stop judging, because if somebody has crazy, hair, I might say, what's going on? It'll become a testimony 100%. But how do you measure healing without judgment? You look at the patterns, not perfection. Okay, you look at the patterns, not perfection. You're not going to be perfect. If that's what you thought, leave it alone. Let that go, because it's not going to be the case. You're looking to have alleviated or to change patterns, to disrupt patterns, to rip out, to unroot patterns. That's what you're looking to do. But it doesn't mean you're going to like unroot a pattern and then put some perfect like Susie Homemaker thing in its place, right? That's not going to be the case. So I don't want you to think that that's the case. Okay. And then a couple of things that I want you to just take away from this as I wrap up, because I already see I'm at the hour, is I want you to think of what is one sign that you've healed, even if no one else noticed. Because I think sometimes we wait for somebody to point it out. Y'all, be happy that you notice it. It'll become a testimony, yes. Be happy you notice the sign. The next thing is, have you ever felt that you weren't healing, but looking back, you were actually healed? It's perspective is so much. I will look back at my old pictures and I thought I was big then. And I'm like, my God, I was looking right. So there are sometimes you look at that old thing, right? And as an adult looking back on it, it's different. It feels different. So that's something to take away from it. And then the last thing I want you to say is just because, or the last thing I would like to say to you is just because it doesn't feel like healing, it doesn't mean it isn't. So growth often feels, how do I say it? Growth often feels confusing. This is the easiest way for me to say it when you're in it. So when you're in that growth pattern, it feels confusing because it's destabilizing, right? You've created a foundation of chaos, a foundation of trauma, a foundation of hurt, and now you're taking a jackhammer, right? You're taking a jackhammer to all those areas. So now your foundation may be disrupted. It may be, and so that's, ever try to walk on such uneven ground. But what you're doing is saying, God, I need you to make me a new foundation. Make me a firm foundation. Be the firm foundation that I build on that, and not all the things that have happened to me, not all the things that I've been through, not all the people that have hurt me or minimized me or made me to feel less than, or all the times where I was told I wasn't enough. God, take those things, those patterns, rip those out, unroot those things, and make me a whole new concrete slab of you. Pour me a whole new foundation of you so that I can build on that. And that is my firm foundation. That's my stabilizing foundation. So that is it, y'all. That is it. I'm hoping that you were able to take something away that is a blessing to you, and recognize you're healing. Recognize you're doing it. You're doing the work. How it shows up may be different for every person, but give yourself grace as you manage. And I will say, like I do at the end of all the things. Oh, before I do, 2 things. I'm writing a new play. I'm excited about that. I was actually in someone's live, and that may or may not be in here. I was on someone's live, and in the live, as they were talking, God gave me the title, which is called The Betrayal. That's the title of my new play that I'll be writing. And he was already giving me ideas and concept for what it's going to be. And I haven't written a play in several years at this point, so this is a very exciting thing for me. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So we'll see how that all pans out. But that, and I'm still writing the book. It's been a lot slower than I've wanted to, but I'm giving myself grace because I recognize that God has been dealing with some things in me and allowing me to manage my betrayal. So that's where I'm at. But I want to thank you guys so much. Yeah, I'm excited, Tiffany. But I want to thank you guys so much. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and extend to yourself. And please to me, your girl, a measure of grace. I'll see you next Saturday, 1 o'clock, on the next episode of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Bye, everyone.